Hi, I'm Dr. Ravi Luka, Medical Director at Bupa, and welcome to this Academy module where today we're discussing the topic of addiction with a particular focus on alcoholism. In England, more than 25 million adults regularly drink alcohol, and while many do so in moderation, alcohol misuse is the biggest risk factor for death, ill health and disability in people aged 15 to 49. Alcohol is addictive both physically and psychologically. When consumed in excess, it can have serious effects on both your physical health, such as organ damage and an increased risk of cancer, and mental health, through conditions such as depression or anxiety. On an everyday level, it also disturbs sleep and disrupts brain function, meaning it can often affect performance and strain relationships at work, even if somebody's drinking is taking place outside the workplace. In fact, it's estimated that alcohol use costs the UK economy £7 billion each year due to lost productivity. So how should a line manager approach what can often be a sensitive subject when they have reason to believe that one of their direct reports is suffering with some form of addiction? Let's find out how. I'm now joined by two Bupa colleagues who are going to discuss their lived experiences both as a team member and line manager with regards to alcohol addiction. Steve, Paul, thanks for joining us today. Firstly, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences with alcohol addiction and how it affected you at work?
Yeah, sure. So I've always been a big drinker. So growing up, Joe, 17, 18, would drink, and it was just kind of norm, I think, for my era, my age, that people went out drinking constantly. That just carried on. That's probably throughout all my work life. I think I suffered from a little bit of depression, which then probably made me drink a bit more, and put depression and drinking hand in hand. It just spirals from the back of that. So in work, in relation to work, I will have been, as Paul will probably vouch for, a functioning alcoholic. And the drinking just really nosedived during sort of lockdown, where obviously it was easy to do. It was more acceptable to have a drink on a Tuesday evening than ever before. But in relation to how it affected my work, looking back now compared to how I am now I've had sort of 3 years sober compared to where I was, it will have had a massive impact, just probably the way I conducted myself and the way I came across.
Firstly, congratulations on your sobriety.
Thank you.
And great to hear your story and your journey.
Very much.
Both from outside of work, but also from a workplace perspective. So Paul, from your perspective, seeing Steve go through that, and as Steve just mentioned, signs of it affecting him in the workplace, how did you first broach the subject and then go on to support him in the workplace as his line manager?
It was a difficult situation. Steve called up to say he had got COVID. And we asked for a copy of the COVID test, and obviously that wasn't what had happened. And it kind of forced the hand, I guess, for Steve to explain what had happened. And, he was quite open about it. It was the first time I'd ever dealt with anything like that. And, for me, the priority was getting the right support for Steve and making sure me as a manager was doing the right thing by him. I spoke to Occupational Health. They gave me some real crucial advice on how to deal with that scenario, what questions to ask, what to expect. I spoke to HR as well, and just really wanted to make sure that work was the last thing anybody like that needed. And luckily, we had contact with Steve's partner, who kept me up to date and really allowed me that avenue to go down to speak to keep me updated, not to hassle Steve. So, as long as I knew what was happening and making sure he and she had the right support as well, because it wasn't just about, Steve's issue. Obviously, it's the family that it affects as well. So just making sure everything was in place for that. And
Steve, telling your line manager must have been a really big first step. What were the other initial steps that were really important on your path to recovery?
Yeah, I think if you ask anyone who's got an addiction, the hardest bit is just admitting that you've got an addiction, no matter who that's to. I think admitting it to sort of my girlfriend and friends originally, the first point of contact was, listen, you're right.
Yeah.
You've been right for the past 10 years. I've got a problem drinking. First of all, admitting it, then obviously telling work, because you kind of then, at that stage, I'd gone into, so I went to the NHS hospital first of all, explained to them that I got a drink issue. They kept me in for 24 hours. They then transferred me to an NHS hospital, Prestwich Hospital, for a 7-day detox. Behind the scenes then, Katie, my girlfriend, had been looking to get me into the Priory through work. So I did 28 days in there. Then you kind of have, I think you have a treatment plan in your head about what that looks like when you get out and what you're going to do. The Priory have a treatment plan, go, listen, you need to attend meetings, or you need to get a sponsor, or carry on your 12 steps. That didn't particularly work for me. So I just really focused on my family, if I'm being honest. It was like, it's an old cliche that everyone will say is I didn't think about anything but the next day. So there were certain days I'd break it down by half a day. I'd go, right, if I get to 12 o'clock, there you go, there's half my day boxed off. It's about just keeping active all the time. I think my biggest danger is when I'm not active. Joe, that's when it starts playing in my mind. If I'm doing stuff constantly, I've got a little baby now, he's 10 months, 11 months, little baby, I've got a lad who's 9, football, everything else that goes in with that. That's kind of my treatment plan, if that makes sense. That's what and there are times, when you miss it, and then all I do is just look around the house, see the picture of the kids and think.
I think it's really important for people to know that truth, as you say. Paul, if I bring you in here, that's where it comes into the realities of the workplace, of course. So how did you kind of support Steve through that path to recovery outside of that controlled environment of rehab and into going back into the workplace?
Yeah, I think first of all as well, the honesty Steve's shown from the start has really helped in this overall journey. He had to be honest, and that point from him being, diagnosed and getting the healthcare and the support he needed, for me then was just keeping in place, making sure I was speaking in touch with his partner, keeping up to date with our occupational therapist team to keep them updated as to the stages where he was up to, how he was progressing. It almost leads you to wanting to understand that problem a lot more. So I did a lot more investigation into that and, really sort of how to help and how to support. You feel like you want to wrap your arms around somebody, and actually space can sometimes be as strong as a hug, but just an assurance and a reassurance that you're there for people, I think goes a long way.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paul. So Steve, you mentioned that you're 3 years sober now, which is an incredible achievement. Congratulations. So speeding up to now, how do you guys manage that now and how do you check in with each other?
Yeah, so 3 years in October. So yeah, very pleased, obviously. Couldn't have done it with sort of help and support from families, etc. But we check in quite regularly because, as I said before, we're friends, so it's an easy check-in. I think we've now got to the stage where, as I've said, your recovery is a day-by-day thing. I'm not saying that I'm out of the woods, I'm done or anything, but I wouldn't ring Paul just to discuss that. We'd have a chat, and then that normally comes up because that's a general topic that we would discuss, isn't it?
I guess we've learned to take no mess in there now. If things weren't going well, I genuinely feel I'd know straight away. Little check-ins, speak to his partner and, how's he doing? It's all it needs. It's not a nosy, he's all right. And, just talking about it here, I've always got a question because I think it's an intriguing subject and, super proud that he's managed to do this. And the fact is he's got through this is just testament to his dedication, his support that he's had. As a friend and manager, I couldn't be prouder.
Great to hear. And it's a really important thing to remember for anyone, line manager or friend, as you say, that it's an ongoing conversation. It's not just one and done, whether it's addiction or not. You've got to keep talking, keep supporting people. So Steve, what would you say to somebody who's struggling with addiction but feels unsure about opening up or seeking help?
Joe, it's just seriously put your hand up and say, listen, I'm struggling, and no one judges you. I think I got more respect from holding my hands up and saying I've got a drink problem than I would have done burying my head in the sand. I've got addiction problems. People are more open to speaking around mental health now. Don't have that. There's not an issue with you saying to your line manager, I've got an addiction, I've got a problem. The addiction doesn't have to go that far where you go into the priory. That addiction might just be starting. And that one conversation with somebody can nip that in the bud where you have that conversation, it's opened it up. They can give you the support they might need, point you in the right direction. Even if you're not telling your line manager at work, you're speaking to one of your friends about it or one of your family about it, they probably come across somebody who's dealt with it. And then they might know a support route to go down to help you out.
And Paul, when someone does that in the workplace, what would your advice be to a line manager who might feel unsure about where to start?
I think, first of all, speak to the right people. So occupational health, HR, even your own manager, try and get the right information, first of all, on how best you can support them. It's bound to, in a lot of cases, be something which is unique to that individual who, at the end of the day would want to give their best support for any employee. I did find the occupational health extremely helpful for me. That then led me to do my own little sort of internal investigations to see if there was any more information online. We've got our health hubs information on there where there's a wealth of information and resources. speaking to, I say, occupational health, speaking to HR as well. You know, it was remembering there's a number of people and, you know, that you need to speak to. It's not just one. And fundamentally from there is then making sure that you're keeping in touch with that individual. You almost set almost like a plan to say, okay, how best will it work for you to keep in touch with me? Yeah. And what support can we offer you?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much, Paul, Steve, for sharing so openly about your journey and everything you've been through. I think there's some really great advice to both individuals going through addiction, but also for line managers who are really there to support individuals through that journey.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Today we've heard one person's story, but it's important to remember that everyone's experience of addiction is different. The journey to recovery can be complex and there's no one-size-fits-all approach. What matters most is creating a culture where people feel safe to speak up, seek help and support one another without fear of judgment. Whether you're a colleague, a manager or someone going through it yourself, small steps can make a big difference. For more tools and support for dealing with addiction or other health and wellbeing issues in the workplace, head to Bupa's Workplace Academy webpage at www.bupa.co.uk/academy. You can also access our online mental health hub, offering a wide range of resources to support your wellbeing. If you have Bupa health insurance, you can get fast access to treatment via the My Bupa app, making it easier to get the help you need when you need it. We also offer support for substance-related addictions and substance misuses through our dedicated treatment programs. This includes detoxification, which can be carried out as either inpatient or day patient treatment, depending on individual needs. Thanks again for watching.